My hands shook as I cleaned the blood from my hair in the urgent care bathroom. The nurse had just asked me what happened, and I'd told her the truth. My boss threw a metal trash can at my head. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't normal. This wasn't okay. 3 months earlier, I'd been so excited about my first real job after college, office manager at a financial services firm. It sounded professional, grown up, like I'd finally made it. The branch had 6 financial advisors, 2 interns, and Thomas, the branch manager, who would become my personal nightmare. I should have known something was wrong during my first week. Thomas never spoke to me in a normal tone. Everything was either dripping with sarcasm or so condescending it made my skin crawl. When I sealed a FedEx envelope, he'd inspect it like it was evidence in a crime scene. Too crooked? I'd get screamed at for being sloppy. Too straight? He'd sneer and ask if I used a ruler, mocking me for trying too hard. But I needed this job. I'd grown up in a house where yelling was normal, where nothing you did was ever good enough. So when Thomas started his daily torment, part of me thought this was just how bosses acted. Part of me thought I deserved it. I was wrong, and it would take a trash can to the head to finally make me see it. The office was nice enough from the outside. Glass doors, marble lobby, the kind of place that looked successful. I'd worn my best interview outfit, a black blazer I'd bought at Target with my last bit of savings. Thomas had seemed professional during the interview. Firm handshake, direct questions, even smiled once or twice. I thought I'd hit the jackpot when he called to offer me the position. My first day, he showed me to my desk near the front entrance. "You're the first face people see," he said. "Don't embarrass me." The way he said it should have been my first warning. Not, "Don't embarrass the company or represent us well." Just don't embarrass him. The other employees seemed nice enough. Jerry, one of the senior advisors, showed me how to work the phone system. Lisa, another advisor, brought me a coffee mug with the company logo. The 2 interns, Mike and Brandon, were both college juniors who came in 3 days a week. Everyone acted normal around each other, joking about weekend plans and discussing client meetings. But whenever Thomas emerged from his corner office, the whole atmosphere changed. Conversations stopped. People suddenly found urgent work at their computers. Lisa once whispered to me, "Just keep your head down and do your work. He's particular." Particular. That was one word for it. By the end of my first week, I had a dozen other words. Mean, cruel, vindictive. And those were the nice ones. The accusations started in my second week. I'd been working on organizing the supply closet when Thomas stormed out of his office, face red, finger pointing at me like a weapon. "Where the hell are the stamps?" he demanded. I showed him the drawer where we kept postage supplies. Everything was there, organized by denomination just like he'd asked. He counted them twice, then turned on me. "There were 2 books of forever stamps here yesterday. Now there's only 1. You think I'm stupid?" I hadn't taken anything. I tried to explain that Jerry had asked for stamps for a client mailing, but Thomas cut me off. "So now you're saying Jerry's a thief, is that it? Or are you covering for yourself?" That became his favorite accusation. Something missing? I took it. Supplies running low? I must be hoarding them. A pen disappeared from his desk? Obviously I was building a collection at home. He'd remind me constantly about the cameras he claimed were hidden throughout the office, watching my every move. "I've got eyes everywhere," he'd say, tapping his temple. "One day I'm going to catch you red-handed and then you're done. No reference, no unemployment. Just done." I started keeping receipts for everything. If I used a paper clip at home, I'd bring one from home to replace it. I became paranoid about even touching office supplies. But it didn't matter. In Thomas's mind, I was already guilty. He just hadn't caught me yet. Working with the interns was usually the best part of my day. Mike and Brandon were both smart kids, eager to learn about the financial industry. I'd help them with projects, show them how to format reports, basic office stuff that Thomas was too important to bother with. One Thursday, Brandon and I were working on a reconciliation report for one of Jerry's biggest clients. The numbers weren't adding up, off by about $300. We'd been at it for 2 hours, going through every line, when Thomas appeared behind us. "What's taking so long?" His breath smelled like the tuna sandwich he'd eaten at his desk. I explained about the discrepancy. Brandon started to say something about maybe transposing numbers, but Thomas ignored him completely. His eyes were locked on me. "You screwed up the report? We're working on finding." "No." He slammed his hand on the desk, making Brandon jump. "You screwed it up. You're gonna fix it. This weekend. Here. And since this is your mistake, you're not getting paid for it." Brandon's eyes went wide. He started to speak up. "Actually, Mr. Thomas, I think I might have. Get back to work, intern." Thomas didn't even look at him. "And you," he pointed at me, "better clear your weekend. You'll stay here until it's perfect. Understand?" I nodded. What else could I do? I needed this job. My roommate situation was already terrible. I couldn't afford to lose my income. So I agreed to work for free, thinking this was normal punishment for making mistakes. That weekend in the office alone was when I really started to understand how messed up everything was. The building was empty except for security. I sat at my desk from 8 in the morning until 7 at night, both Saturday and Sunday, going through every single number in that report. I found the error Saturday afternoon. It wasn't even my mistake or Brandon's. Jerry had entered a transaction twice by accident. $300, duplicated. Easy fix. Took me 5 minutes once I spotted it. But I stayed the whole weekend anyway. Too scared to call Thomas and tell him I'd finished early. What if he accused me of not being thorough? What if he thought I was lying about finding the error? So I sat there, pretending to work, afraid to leave. My roommate texted asking if I was coming home. I lived in a converted living room in a 2-bedroom apartment, paying way too much for a space with no privacy. My roommate and her boyfriend fought constantly, screaming matches that reminded me too much of growing up. But at least there I could hide behind my curtain. Here I felt exposed. Sunday evening, I finally emailed Thomas the corrected report. He responded within minutes. "About time. Don't let it happen again." No thank you, no acknowledgement that I'd worked 16 hours unpaid. Just another threat. I drove home feeling something I couldn't quite name. Not just tired or frustrated. Something deeper. Something that felt dangerously close to hopeless. The dry cleaning incident happened on a Tuesday. Thomas called me into his office first thing in the morning, before I'd even had my coffee. "I need you to pick up my dry cleaning at lunch." He handed me a pink slip. "Marlene's Cleaners on 5th Street. Should be ready by noon." This wasn't in my job description. I knew that. But saying no to Thomas felt impossible. He had this way of making every request sound like a test, like refusing would confirm all his worst suspicions about me. I found Marlene's easily enough. The woman behind the counter handed me 5 suits, all covered in plastic. I paid with the company credit card Thomas had given me, making sure to get a detailed receipt. But walking back to my car, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. One of the suits looked wrong. The jacket had a weird sheen to it. Almost purple in certain lights. It looked damaged, like someone had used the wrong chemicals. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, panicking. Thomas would blame me. He'd say I did something to his suit, probably accuse me of tampering with it. I was about to drive back to Marlene's when I spotted a familiar face in the parking lot. A woman I'd seen visit Thomas a few times. His girlfriend, I thought, though he never introduced her. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice shaky. "You're Thomas's girlfriend, right?" She nodded, looking wary. I explained about the suit, trying not to sound completely insane. His girlfriend's name was Rachel. She looked at the suit through the plastic, then actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, more like a tired one. "That's his lucky suit," she said. "It's supposed to look like that, some designer thing. I told him it was ugly when he bought it, but..." She shrugged. I must have looked relieved because she tilted her head, studying me. "You're his new assistant, right? The one he's always complaining about?" My cheeks burned. "He complains about me?" "Oh, honey," Rachel touched my arm gently. "He complains about everyone. Nothing's ever good enough for Thomas. That suit, he'll inspect it for 20 minutes, looking for problems that don't exist. The man is intense." The way she said intense made me think she had other words in mind. "Sometimes too much so," she added quietly, glancing around like she was afraid he might appear. "Just be careful, okay? Document everything. Keep records. You seem like a nice girl." She walked away before I could ask what she meant. But the warning stuck with me. Document everything, like she knew something I didn't. like she'd seen this play out before. Back at the office, Thomas examined each suit like he was looking for evidence of a crime. When he got to the purple one, I held my breath. But he just hung it behind his door without comment. Crisis averted. This time. Jerry was one of the senior advisors, been with the company for 15 years. Tall guy, always wore cowboy boots with his suits. He seemed decent enough, always said please and thank you, unlike Thomas. That's why what happened with the Christmas cards hurt so much. It was mid-December, 2 weeks before Christmas. Jerry came to my desk with a small stack of Christmas cards, maybe 15 or 20. Hey, could you stamp these for me? They're for my top clients. Thomas okayed it. I'd learned by then to double-check everything. Are you sure Thomas approved this? Jerry looked annoyed. Yes, I'm sure. We talked about it this morning. Just regular stamps, nothing fancy. I took the cards and started applying postage. The addresses were clearly business-related. CEOs, company names, the kind of clients who probably gave Jerry huge commissions. I was halfway through when Thomas emerged from his office. His face went from normal to rage in about 2 seconds. What the hell are you doing? Jerry asked me to stamp these Christmas cards for his clients. He said you approved. Stealing! He actually yelled it so loud that Mike, the intern, poked his head out of the break room. You're stealing from me, again. My hands shook as I tried to explain. These are Jerry's cards. Look at the addresses. They're his clients. But Thomas was already storming toward Jerry's office, the remaining unstamped cards clutched in his fist like evidence of a crime. 30 minutes later, Thomas called me into his office. He sat behind his massive desk, fingers steepled, looking like a judge about to pass sentence. I just spoke with Jerry, he said, voice deadly calm. He says he never gave you any Christmas cards, never asked you to stamp anything. The room spun a little. That's not true. He just handed them to me. You can ask Mike. He was in the break room. He might have seen. Oh, so now you're calling Jerry a liar? Thomas leaned back in his chair. A 15-year employee, top producer, and you're saying he's lying? I pulled out the cards I'd already stamped, hands trembling. Look at these addresses. Mr. Jameson at Hartford Industries, Mrs. Chen at Peak Financial. These are all Jerry's clients. I don't even know these people. Thomas grabbed the cards, glanced at them for maybe 2 seconds. Anyone can look up client names. You probably got them from the database thinking you'd mail yourself some Christmas money. Pretend to be Jerry, ask for year-end bonuses. It was so absurd I almost laughed. Almost. But the look in his eyes stopped me. He believed it, or wanted to believe it. Either way, I was guilty in his mind. I've had enough of your theft, he continued. The missing supplies, the stamps. Now this. I told you I have cameras everywhere. Maybe it's time I check them. See what else you've been stealing when you think no one's watching. I tried one more time. My voice came out smaller than I wanted, but I had to try. Mr. Thomas, I swear I'm not stealing. Jerry gave me those cards. If you check with him again, maybe. Oh, so now I'm stupid? His voice rose again. I just told you I talked to Jerry. He denied it. Are you calling me a liar now too? No, you just what? You just thought you could steal from me and get away with it? You thought I wouldn't notice? He stood up, pacing behind his desk. You know what your problem is? You don't respect authority. You talk back, you make excuses, you think you're smarter than everyone else. That's when something inside me snapped. Just a little. Not enough to quit or yell back, but enough to find my voice. If you really think I'm stealing, then check your cameras. You keep saying you have them everywhere. So check them. They'll show Jerry giving me the cards. The words hung in the air between us. I'd challenged him, actually challenged him. His face went from red to purple, and for a second, I thought he might have a stroke right there. Then he picked up the metal wastebasket beside his desk. I didn't even have time to process what was happening. One moment he was holding it, the next it was flying toward my head. I tried to duck, but I was sitting in a chair. The rim caught me just above my right temple. The impact made a sound I'll never forget, a dull thunk followed by ringing in my ears. For a moment, I just sat there, too shocked to move. Then I felt something warm trickling down the side of my face. Blood. I was bleeding. Thomas was still standing there, breathing hard, the empty space where his wastebasket had been like a crime scene. That's what happens when you talk back to me, he said. Maybe now you'll learn some respect. I reached up, touched my head. My fingers came away red. The room tilted a little, but I didn't cry. Couldn't cry. Some survival instinct from my childhood kicked in. When things get dangerous, you don't show weakness. You just get out. I grabbed a tissue from the box on his desk, pressed it against the wound, stood up slowly, carefully, like any sudden movement might make him throw something else. "Where do you think you're going?" His voice followed me as I walked toward the door. I didn't answer, couldn't answer, just kept walking. "Don't even think about coming back until you fix your attitude," he yelled. Jerry's door was open. He sat at his desk, pretending to look at his computer screen. But I saw his eyes flick up as I passed, saw him notice the tissue, now soaked red, pressed against my head. He said nothing, did nothing, just watched me leave. The drive to urgent care was probably the most dangerous thing I did that day. My vision kept swimming, and I had to pull over twice to switch tissues. The second time, I looked in the rearview mirror and almost didn't recognize myself. Blood had dried in my hair, on my cheek. My white blouse had red drops on the collar. I looked like a victim, because that's what I was. The urgent care center was mostly empty, just an older man with a cough and a mother with a sniffling toddler. When the receptionist asked what brought me in, I said quietly, "Head injury." She gave me forms to fill out. Under "How did injury occur?" I stared at the blank line for a long time. Then I wrote, "Struck by object thrown at work." The nurse who called me back was younger than my mom would have been. Kind eyes behind purple glasses. She cleaned the wound gently, asking questions in a soft voice. "What kind of object? A metal wastebasket. How did it hit you? Did something fall?" I met her eyes. My boss threw it at me. She stopped cleaning. "On purpose?" "Yes." "Honey, we need to document this. Can I take some pictures? And, do you want to file a police report?" Police report. The word sounded foreign. Kids from homes like mine didn't call the police. We handled things ourselves or not at all. "I don't know," I whispered. I don't know." The nurse, whose name tag said Patricia, didn't push. She took photos of my injury with a medical camera, measured the cut, made notes on a chart. 2 stitches, she said. "Not too bad, considering." "Head wounds bleed a lot," she explained, working carefully. "Looks worse than it is. But honey, someone throwing things at you? That's assault. That's not okay." She gave me ice pack and some papers about concussion symptoms to watch for. Then she sat down, wheeled her little stool close. "I've been doing this for 20 years, Patricia said. "I've seen women come in with all kinds of injuries from partners, from family members, but from a boss, that's something else. He can't do that to you." "I need my job," I heard myself say. "No job is worth this." She gestured at my head. "What happens next time? What if he throws something heavier? What if his aim is better?" She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing something and acting on it are different things. She gave me a card for a women's crisis center, another for a legal aid society. "Think about it," she said. "And here's a work excuse for the rest of the week. Concussion protocol. You need rest." I sat in my car afterward, holding those cards. My phone had 3 missed calls from the office. Not from Thomas, from the main line. Probably wondering where I was. I turned it off and drove home. My converted living room had never looked so good. I collapsed on my bed, really just a mattress on the floor behind a curtain, and finally let myself cry. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. My roommate was out. Thankfully, I couldn't handle her drama on top of everything else. I lay there with the ice pack on my head, staring at the water stain on the ceiling, and thought about my options. I could go back. Pretend nothing happened. Thomas would probably act like nothing had happened. That's what people like him did. Gaslight you into thinking you were overreacting. But then what? Wait for the next time he lost his temper? I could quit. But I had exactly $247 in my bank account. Rent was due in 2 weeks. No savings, no family to fall back on. The job market was tough and without a reference. The third option sat on my nightstand in the form of those cards Patricia had given me. Legal aid, crisis center, police, the nuclear option. I picked up my phone, turned it back on. 5 missed calls now, 2 voicemails. I ignored them and scrolled through my contacts to a number I'd saved but never called. The corporate HR hotline. Every employee got it during orientation. For emergencies or serious concerns. Getting a trash can thrown at your head probably qualified. I stared at the number for a long time. Then I scrolled down more and found another number, my college roommate who'd gone to law school. Maybe I should start there. Sarah answered on the third ring. Oh my God, is this really you? It's been forever. We'd lost touch after graduation, but hearing her voice made me feel safer somehow. I gave her the short version. First job, terrible boss, the trash can incident. He what? Her lawyer voice kicked in immediately. Are you okay? Did you go to the hospital? Please tell me you documented everything. I told her about urgent care, the photos, the stitches. She made me repeat everything twice, asking specific questions. When? Where? Who was present? What exactly did he say? Okay, listen to me very carefully, Sarah said. This is assault. This is also workers' comp, hostile work environment, and about 5 other legal violations. You need to file a police report today. I don't know if... No, stop. I know that voice. That's your I don't want to make waves voice. Someone assaulted you. At work, your boss. This isn't about making waves, this is about protecting yourself and probably the next girl he hires. She was right. Of course, she was right. But filing a police report felt so final, so official. Here's what you're going to do, Sarah continued. Document everything. Write down every incident you can remember, with dates if possible. Call HR tomorrow morning. File a police report, and start looking for an employment attorney. I can't afford an attorney. Most employment lawyers work on contingency for cases like this. They know companies will settle to avoid publicity. Trust me on this. That night, I followed Sarah's advice. I got a notebook and started writing. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Every insult, every accusation, every time Thomas had humiliated me in front of others, the unpaid weekend work, the dry cleaning runs, the constant threats about cameras and catching me stealing, it filled 12 pages. Reading it back, I couldn't believe I'd put up with it for 3 months. But that's how abuse works, isn't it? It starts small. Little comments, minor criticisms. By the time it escalates, you're so beaten down you think it's normal. The next morning, I called the corporate HR line. My hands shook as I dialed. A professional-sounding woman answered. I need to report an incident with my branch manager, I said. I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me what happened? I told her. Everything. She stayed quiet, except for occasional, I see and go on. When I got to the trash can part, she made a sharp intake of breath. You said you went to urgent care? You have medical documentation? Yes. Photos too. I need you to email me everything. Medical records, photos, any written documentation. Can you do that today? I said yes. She gave me her direct email, a case number, and told me someone would be in contact within 24 hours. In the meantime, she said, do not return to that office. We'll handle this internally. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. I sat in the lobby for an hour, watching people come and go, before a detective called me back. Detective Morrison, an older woman with gray streaks in her hair and kind but tired eyes. I told the story again. It was getting easier each time, which felt weird. Like I was talking about something that happened to someone else. She took notes, asked questions, had me write out a statement. Do you know if there were any witnesses? Maybe. There were 2 interns there that day. Mike definitely saw me leave holding my head. Brandon was there earlier when Thomas yelled at me about the reconciliation report. She wrote down their names. We'll need to talk to them. And we'll need the medical records from urgent care. I gave her everything. Felt strange, handing over my life like evidence. But that's what it was now. Evidence. What happens next? I asked. We'll investigate, interview witnesses, possibly your co-workers. If the prosecutor thinks there's enough for charges, they'll move forward. Assault in the workplace is serious. Will he be arrested? That depends on what we find. But I want you to know, you did the right thing coming here. Too many people don't report workplace violence. I left with a case number and her business card. 2 case numbers now. HR and police. My quiet life of keeping my head down was officially over. Sarah had given me 3 names of employment attorneys. I called the first one, a big firm downtown. They wanted a $5,000 retainer. The second never called back. The third was a small women-owned firm called Martinez & Associates. The attorney who took my call was named Elena Martinez. She listened to my story without interrupting, then said, "Can you come in tomorrow? And bring everything. Medical records, police report, any emails or documentation from work. Her office was in an old building near the courthouse. Not fancy, but clean and professional. Elena was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with a no-nonsense attitude that reminded me of Sarah. "Show me what you have," she said. I spread out my papers, medical records, photos of my injury, the police report, my 12 pages of incidents. She read through everything carefully, occasionally making notes. "This is good," she said finally. "Really good. You documented well, the medical evidence is clear, and if the witnesses corroborate your story." She looked up. "We have a strong case. For what? Assault, obviously, but also hostile work environment, potentially wage theft for that unpaid weekend, and definitely workers' comp. The question is what you want out of this." I hadn't thought that far. I don't want him to do this to anyone else." Elena smiled. "Good answer, but you also deserve compensation. Medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. This man assaulted you. The company failed to protect you. They should pay." Elena agreed to take my case on contingency. She'd get paid only if we won or settled. She had me sign papers, then laid out the plan. "First, I'll send a formal notice to corporate. Let them know you have representation. That usually makes them take things more seriously. We'll demand your full medical records, any surveillance footage if it exists, and personnel files. Thomas always said there were cameras everywhere. We'll find out if that's true. If there's footage of the assault, that's game over for them." She paused. "I also want to look into whether you're his first victim. Men like this usually have patterns." That made me think of Rachel's warning. Document everything. Like she knew. "In the meantime," Elena continued, "file for unemployment. You were constructively terminated, forced to leave due to unsafe working conditions. You should qualify." "What about the police investigation?" "That's separate but helpful. Criminal charges make our civil case stronger. Shows the seriousness of what happened." I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Maybe also a little bit of power. For the first time since taking that job, I wasn't alone. I had Sarah checking on me, Patricia from urgent care had called to follow up, Elena fighting for me, and Detective Morrison investigating. Thomas had isolated me at work, made me feel crazy and worthless. But now I had a team, and we were just getting started. 2 days later, my phone rang. "Corporate HR. Miss Johnson? This is David Chen from Human Resources. I'm the regional director. I've reviewed your complaint and the documentation you provided. I need to inform you that Mr. Thomas has been placed on administrative leave pending our investigation." My knees went weak. "He's not at the office?" "No, and he's been instructed not to contact you or any other employees during this time. We take these allegations very seriously." "What about my job?" "You remain a full employee with full benefits. We'd like to offer you a position at our downtown branch away from Mr. Thomas while we investigate. Same pay, same title." I thought about it. Another office, another boss. What if they were all like Thomas? "I need to think about it," I said. "Of course. Also, I need to inform you that another employee has come forward with concerns about Mr. Thomas. We can't share details, but your report prompted others to speak up." "Others?" "Pure. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. One more thing," Mr. Chen added. "We've been trying to locate security footage from the office. Mr. Thomas claims the cameras were non-functional, but we're having our IT department verify that." Of course they were non-functional. All those threats about watching me, catching me stealing, just another way to control me. Elena called that afternoon. "They're scared. Putting him on leave this fast, offering you another position. They know they're exposed. And get this, my investigator found 2 former employees who left that branch in the last year. Both young women. Both left suddenly with no new job lined up. He's done this before. Most likely. I've reached out to them. If they're willing to talk." She trailed off. "This could be bigger than just your case." The next few weeks blurred together. I filed for unemployment. Approved, thankfully. Elena negotiated with corporate lawyers. Detective Morrison interviewed witnesses. Mike, the intern, confirmed seeing me leave holding my head, blood on my fingers. Brandon backed up the story about the unpaid weekend work. Jerry, unsurprisingly, couldn't recall giving me Christmas cards. But it didn't matter. The evidence was overwhelming. My medical records, the photos, witness statements. And then one of the former employees Elena found agreed to give a statement. Thomas had screamed at her daily, thrown a stapler that missed her by inches. She'd quit after 2 months. They want to settle, Elena told me a month later. They're offering $50,000. $50,000. More money than I'd ever seen. Enough to get a real apartment, pay off my credit cards, maybe even go back to school. But, Elena continued, I think we can get more, especially if the criminal case moves forward. The criminal case did move forward. The prosecutor decided there was enough evidence to charge Thomas with assault. Not just a lawsuit anymore, actual criminal charges. Elena was right. Corporate's next offer was $125,000. They want this to go away, she explained. A branch manager criminally charged for assaulting an employee? Stock prices would tank. Other employees might come forward. This is a nightmare for them. Part of me wanted to take it and run, but another part, a part that had been growing stronger since that day in urgent care, wanted more. Not just money, accountability. What do you recommend? I asked Elena. Counter at $200,000. Ask for a neutral reference and extended health insurance. And here's the big one. Demand they implement mandatory management training on workplace violence and hostile work environments. Company-wide. Can we ask for that? We can ask for anything. They need this to go away more than you do. She was right. They countered at $175,000 plus everything else we asked for, including the training. Some executive would have to stand in front of every manager in the company and explain why they were now required to take workplace violence training. Because of what Thomas did to me. That felt better than the money. I took the settlement. Signed papers promising not to discuss the details publicly, though the criminal case would be public record. Thomas would face that separately. With Elena's fee, I walked away with about $120,000. I paid off my credit cards, found a small but safe studio apartment in a better part of town. Put most of the rest in savings. First time I'd ever had savings. The criminal case took longer. Thomas hired an expensive lawyer, tried to plea it down. But the prosecutor held firm. In the end, he pled guilty to assault. Got probation, anger management classes, and a criminal record that would follow him forever. I heard through LinkedIn that he'd left the financial industry. Became a consultant, which probably meant unemployed with a fancy title. Someone said they saw him working at a car dealership 3 towns over. Meanwhile, I went back to school. Used some of the settlement money for a paralegal certificate. Figured I'd learned enough about the law to maybe help other people navigate it. Got hired at a small firm that helped domestic violence victims. Felt like coming full circle. Sometimes I wondered about the other women. The ones who'd left before me, the ones who might have come after if I hadn't spoken up. Did they have nightmares too? Did they flinch when someone raised their voice in an office? A year later, I got a LinkedIn message from Mike, the intern. He was graduating, looking for job advice. We met for coffee. I'm sorry I didn't do more, he said. When I saw you that day bleeding, I should have said something sooner. You testified. That was enough. Still. He stared at his coffee. I knew he was awful to you. We all did. We just, I don't know. Figured it wasn't our business. It wasn't your fault, I said, and meant it. But maybe next time you see someone being abused, you'll speak up sooner. He nodded, told me about the new branch manager, a woman who ran things completely differently. People actually smiled in the office now. Jerry had retired early, probably encouraged to leave. The culture had changed. They make us all take this training now, Mike said, about workplace violence and hostile work environments. It's actually pretty good. Makes you recognize the warning signs. My training requirement. They'd actually implemented it. Good, I said. That's really good. We finished our coffee and Mike asked what I was doing now. When I told him about the paralegal work, helping domestic violence victims, his eyes widened. That's amazing. Taking something terrible and turning it into something good. I thought about that a lot afterward. How Thomas had tried to break me, make me feel worthless and small. How he'd probably done it to others before me and would have kept doing it if I hadn't finally said enough. But his trash can didn't break me, it woke me up.